he's broke. He's had all of these lavish welfare ideas that are not fundable because he's driving out the upper middle class and the wealthy, and they're leaving in droves. Some estimates maybe $11 billion already in real value and revenue. So he needs money. Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, has just stirred up a lot of controversy. He said that he wanted to go after property owners who had homes worth more than $5 million, and they were likely to be second homes. In other words, they had a primary residence elsewhere, either in the state of New York or outside the state of, or in a foreign country. And he wanted to tax them with a new surcharge, in addition to property tax. But then when the letters went out, they didn't just go to the upper middle class or the wealthy who owned $5 million properties. Mamdani went back on his word and sent almost 950,000 letters out to property owners who on the register had a home worth more than $1 million. Now this is where it gets interesting. He's under a lot of criticism for this because he was bragging, and he kind of, as he always does, in his cute socialist smile, remember he got in front of Ken Griffith's second home and looked into the camera and said, "Ha ha, we're coming for you," type of thing. This email was supposed to be cute. Something's coming in the mail. But here's the problem. A person can have a relatively modest house, and maybe they inherited it from their parents or they bought it 50 years ago for $50,000, and in crowded New York, it's worth $1 million. They're hardly wealthy. But more importantly, in the United States, Mr. Mamdani isn't familiar, apparently, with an age-old foundational principle that you're innocent until proven guilty. In other words, you don't word a letter to people that say, "I assume you are guilty of having a house which is not your principal residence. You have 3 weeks to prove to me that you're not guilty, and then maybe I will adjudicate you're innocent and not slap a surtax." Can you imagine hundreds of thousands of people getting a letter in the mail that they owe $5, $10, $20, $50, $80,000 on top of their property taxes? And going into panic, and then going to the New York City website with other hundreds of thousands of people trying to get in and say, "Look, I've been in this house. I'm not a second property owner." It was designed to cause confusion and anger and chaos and make Mamdani an object of fear. Don't cross the mayor. He has a long memory. But here's the other thing. Besides inverting the idea to you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent, what's wrong with having a second house? It's a free country. You have a right to have a free house. So what was he doing by sending this letter and threatening you? Well, one of the things is he's broke. He's had all of these lavish welfare ideas that are not fundable because he's driving out the upper middle class and the wealthy, and they're leaving in droves. Some estimates maybe $11 billion already in real value and revenue. So he needs money. And more importantly, by sending this surtax out, in addition to property taxes, if you have a property that's worth $1 million or $2 million, and you're paying $20,000 or $30,000, $40,000 in property taxes, and this surtax comes in 10, 20, 30, a lot of people are saying, you know, I'm not getting that much rent if it is a second home. If it's their primary home, they're saying, I already paid this huge property and I have maintenance costs. If you're renting, you have rental costs. You're subject to oversight. There's rental subsidies for your renter. There's rent control. And so what he's trying to do is force people to sell. Either sell their second home, or he considers them affluent enough that they had their turn and it's time to sell because they will not be able to afford, especially retired people, a surcharge property tax on top of a property tax, on top of insurance. And if you have a lot of sales, the house price drops. If the house price drops, Mamdani can come in and either buy them for the city or subsidize the, quote, oppressed poor to buy. It's a huge redistribution plan. There's a third, more sinister agenda behind Mamdani's enemies list. If you send out the names of over 900,000 New Yorkers in various boroughs, and you say these people, I accuse these people until they can prove me wrong of having a second property or a vacant property that is worth over $1 million, and you give the name as he did and the address as he did, then you're going to have a lot of envious people saying, oh, Mr. Smith down the road, he's on that list. Oh, Mr. Jones, I didn't know that he wasn't living in that house. And that's the best interpretation. There's two, I think, more accurate and maybe even more disturbing. We have an epidemic in this country of squatting. So you're a potential squatter where the law protects you. Once you get possession of an empty home, it's almost impossible to evict you unless you spend thousands of dollars. So all these would-be squatters are going to be looking at this list, and they're going to say, well, the mayor of New York accuses this person at this address of having a vacant home. Let's check it out. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe we'll go down the list, 5, 6, 7, 10 of them, but we will find a vacant house. And we'll know he's not going to come, and we'll just crash and move in, and then the whole legal apparatus of the city protects us, and we can get 2, 3, 4 years of free rent. An even worse scenario is there's a lot of home burglary professionals in New York, especially in New York. And they are saying it's much easier to break into a vacant home than one occupied. And these homes, well, they're all worth $1 million, and there's some worth a lot more. But we'll just give our team a scouting expedition and go and drive by these addresses and see whether they're actually occupied or not. And then we can come back and break into them. Do we think Mamdani didn't know that? Of course he knew that. But what am I getting at? He is a redistributionist. He believes that people got money through malpractice, unethical activity, criminality, kind of like Balzac said, behind every great fortune is a crime, with himself exempted and his socialist colleagues, of course, exempted from the consequences of their own ideology. But what he's trying to do is put fear into the people that he's going to do something or else. And the or else is, you better come and beg and beg and beg to me and that this is your home and you're occupying it. And you better do it in 3 weeks or else. It reminds me in conclusion of a general truism that we should apply to all of these socialist candidates. Socialists run as moderates. They disguise their socialism. Maybe the socialist activists will be honest enough to say they want to abolish the Senate or abolish the Supreme Court or the presidency or get rid of the border or destroy the Pentagon. But elected officials don't say that when they run as candidates. Once they're in power, however, they're not socialists. They're not moderates, but they're not even socialists. They rule as communists. So if you see a socialist, he will run and convince you that he is a moderate. When he gets into power, he will think socialism is a fuddy-duddy, moderate waste of time, and he will be a full-fledged Marxist. Trust me, it'll happen. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson from the Daily Signal.
Female athletes are being forced to compete against biological males, sometimes without their consent or even their knowledge. In Washington, high school sophomore Callie Keeler was sexually assaulted on the wrestling mat during a tournament. Only afterward did she learn her opponent was a boy who identifies as a girl. With the help of Alliance Defending Freedom, Callie is bravely suing the state over a policy that not only allows males to compete in girls' high school sports, but doesn't require schools to disclose that information to female athletes or their parents. Don't let schools put gender ideology over the safety of girls in sports. Your support today can help fight for Callie and other athletes like her. And for a limited time, your first gift to ADF will be doubled by a special matching grant while funds last. Text Hanson to 83848 or go to joinadf.com/Hanson to have your gift doubled.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Signal. Please like, share, and subscribe to be notified for more content like this. You can also check out my own website at victorhanson.com and subscribe for exclusive features in addition.